Matthew 13:24. Another parable put he forth unto them, saying, the kingdom of heaven is likened unto a man which sowed good seed in his field. But while he slept, his enemy came and sowed tares among the wheat.
That's right.
And went his way.
Hey, and that good seed, the field is the earth. Right. And that good seed is Israel. Right? The Most High planted us as the praise of the earth. We're supposed to be his representative. But hey, the enemy, right? We sold to our enemies, Esau, Edom chiefly. But all of these 17 nations that come out of Adam. Psalms 83:3 said the nations are confederate against you. Right? Hey, and it said that also in 2nd Ezra. In 2nd Ezra 6:54 on down, it said the earth was made for our sake. These nations are like unto spittle. But the reason why they've gone high above us is because we transgressed the laws that the Most High gave to us for our good. And he told us in his word, if we were to continue in this rebellion, this is what will happen. Your children will be given to strangers, an evil, wicked nation, a fierce countenance. So when you hear about gator bait and shit, what type of people would do that? A cruel nation of fierce countenance that had no regard for the old or the young. They had little babies on the plantations, picking cotton from can't see morning to can't see night. Right? Why? Because hey, we were giving it to our enemies, just like the parable is saying right now. Right? That good man, that good shepherd, right? Yahushua, he sowed good seed into the field. But that wicked one came and he sowed seed among the good seed. Right? You can bring this out from the top one more time.
Matthew 13:24.
Good.
Another parable put he forth unto them, saying, the kingdom of heaven is likened unto a man which sowed good seed in his field. But while he slept, his enemy came and sowed tares among the wheat.
So what?
And sowed tares among the wheat.
Hey, so because among Jake, you'll have the seed of Esau. You know, so-called white man will impregnate all of the native Israelites. And the babies will look, you know, like, they're phenotypically, they'll look like the mother. And see, this is why the so-called white man, you know the story of Pocahontas.
Yes.
John Smith did just that.
Yes.
He put seed in Pocahontas. And that seed came back saying that they are $5 Indian.
Yes.
Those are the ones on the reservation saying that they're Cherokee.
Yes.
Through their mother's line.
Right.
Yeah, your mama was raped. And now you're saying that I'm 1/4, I'm half Indian. I'm 1/4 Indian because your grandmama was raped.
Right.
But you're not an Indian. You are a Ter.
Right.
You are an Edomite, according to your biblical nationality. You are the seed of your father. That's what goes on in America all day, especially with the $5 Indians. If you go to the reservations and you see who is actually benefiting off of these casinos, benefiting off these land grants. Goddamn children of Esau that raped the native women. This is what goes on. Why? Because the understanding of who you are in this society, it gets blurred. They have designation like mixed, right? Or you could say you are who your father is, or who you are who your mother is, rather, right? And the Bible doesn't push that, right? Oh, you can continue on.
26. But when the blade was sprung up and brought forth fruit, then appeared the tares also. So the servants of the household came and said unto him, Sir, didst not thou sow good seed in thy field? From whence then have it tares? He said unto them, An enemy have done this.
An enemy have done this. Right? He's put his seed among the righteous seed. Oh, he sowed tares among the wheat. Because a tare and the wheat looks identical. Right? You go ahead.
He said unto them, An enemy have done this. The servant said unto him, Wilt thou then that we go and gather them up? But he said, Nay, lest while ye gather up the tares, ye root up also the wheat with them. Let both grow together.
Hey, it said what?
Let both grow together.
Let what?
Let both grow together until the harvest.
Until the harvest. Hey, Amos 99, bring that out real quick. Hey, so in this present time, it's really above our strength, right? The flesh is an indicator. If you look like a white man, we're not saying you're the wicked, but that's just an indicator that you could be among the wicked. But we understand that it's truly a spiritual thing. If there's spirit, the spirit that bears witness with our spirit. The spirit, John 6:63, the word that I speak unto you, they are spirit and they are life. If they can get down with it, you know, hey, even though my grandmama's white, she got to go into slavery because that's the word. Hey, that's a hallmark and an indicator that you're not an Edomite. Because it said, none of the wicked shall understand. We know who the wicked is in Malachi 1 and 3. The border of wickedness. So even if they can't fake it, it's no way that they can, you know, fool the spiritual discernment. And really at this time, right, we cannot even tell them that they're not an Israelite, especially if they get the word, you know, they're bending the knee, right? But ultimately, the Most High is the one that's going to sift the wheat from among the tares. Just like it said, at the time of the end, hey, we can't do nothing about it because we can't distinguish spiritually who these are. It's above our strength. But it said at the time of the end, that reaper, he's going to come and separate the goats from the sheep, the wheat from the tares. Right? You can bring what you got.
This is Amos 9 and 9. For lo, I will command, and I will sift the house of Israel among all nations, like corn is sifted in a sieve, yet shall not the least grain fall upon the earth.
Hey, and that's the Most High gathering us up from amongst the nations where we've been scattered, right? He's going to sift us from among the nations where we've been scattered. And shall not, there's going to be, like he said, he'll leave 99 sheep to go find that one. Everyone that is predestined to be saved from the nations where they're scattered is going to be a full recovery. Like Esau, when he in the military, Saving Private Ryan, he's going to go get him. Right? So we can jump right back to Ecclesiastes, the 9th chapter. Ecclesiastes 3:9. Because it said the blessing of the father, you know, is the foundation of the house. A man that fears the Lord, that is bold enough to put that woman in order, that is sound and balanced enough to give leadership to that household. That's how that house is established. By God-fearing men, right? It said the blessings of the child establish the household as well. And when you go into that word child, is the word bun, sons. Right? So even when you're dealing with children, right? When you're dealing with scriptures, it gives a lot of preference to the male. Just like when Jake was walking up before he got straight demonic on me, he was speaking about in ancient Egypt, King Herod, how during the time of Moses, right? What did he do? He wanted to kill the firstborn sons with the birthing stools, right? So ethnic cleansing has always been, our men have been targeted, right? Our women are targeted. Why? Because the woman doesn't bear the seed. They understand that our nation continues by Israelite men laying seed. The woman doesn't lay the seed. So you mean to tell me that if every Israelite woman were to disappear off the face of the earth, our nation would still be intact? Why? Because the seed will be able to go forward through the men. But just like those wicked kings in that time, they knew if every Israelite man was taken out of the way, that's the end of our nation. Because at that point, they will put their seed in our women will give birth to their nation. Yeah, that's why on television you always see the biracial. They'll show the white man with a black woman. Why? Because the so-called white man has a worldwide negative birth rate. The so-called white woman isn't procreating at a sustaining rate. So the white man understands that, okay, it doesn't matter if these white women are pushing these babies out. We don't matter if they're recessive and they have all type of birth defects. We can use other nations to further our gene. So that's why on these commercials you'll see this Afrocentric woman paired with this white man and a mulatto so-called mixed child. That's common. Every corporation Coca-Cola, Frito-Lay, the car corporations, they're all gonna pander to all women's sensibilities that they can get with another nation and find higher ground. When the stories are coming out about all of the slave play that they do in the bedroom, all of the trauma and the abuse that they got to endure at the hands of these white men, just so in public, socially, you could look as though you're better off. You got better status because you're with someone of the dominant society.
I saw a string of videos about, you ever heard of a massive challenge?
Oh yeah,
A massive challenge?
go into it.
I mean, like, you know, you have, like the brother was bringing out, a so-called white man that is in a relationship with a so-called black woman, and, you know, for some reason they have this challenge now where, you know, the white man grabs, you know, the black woman by the hair or by the collar and yokes her up,
right.
And it's some kind of thing now, you know.
Right, some masochistic, you know, sexual perverted stuff that goes on inside of these, you know, so-called white men's bedroom when they get with a black woman. You know, you can only imagine all of the disgusting, degenerate stuff that goes on in these bedrooms when our women get with Esau Edom. Right, get this in Tobit 4 and 12 real quick. I don't want to get on it, but, you know, the Spirit has it where we need to let our people know that, you know, getting with these other nations, not only do the scriptures tell us something that we shouldn't do, you know, but it's actually the understanding on why you shouldn't do it. We're going to get into it right now. Oh, you bring this out, Tobit 4 and 12.
Tobit 4 and 12.
Done.
Beware of all whoredoms, my son, and chiefly take a wife of the seed of thy fathers, and take not a strange woman to wife.
Hey, the scriptures say, beware of all whoredom, because the deal with these other nations is looking like, you know, just deviant. You know what I'm saying? But it said, beware of all whoredoms at the beginning, because this is what happens when our people try to get sexual access with these nations that are round about. Going all the way back to the time of integration, civil rights. This is what our people really wanted, just sexual access with white men. The white guy, he was smart enough to know that segregation was about preserving their blood, keeping you niggas away from our women, because y'all can really have sex with our women and it ain't gonna be no more white people. There'll be a bunch of beige folks. So their justification for segregation, you know, they're saying Jake was hypersexual to preserve their race, keep us from their woman. But the Bible says the same thing, right? Start from the top one more time.
Tobit 4 and 12. Beware of all whoredoms, my son, and take not a strange woman to wife, which is not of thy father's tribe.
Hey, which is not of thy father's tribe, right? An Israelite of your tribe. Go ahead.
For we are the children of the prophets, knowing Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Remember, my son, that our fathers from the beginning, even that they all married wives of their own kindred.
Hey, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, they all had Israelite women, right? They had women of their kindred. Come on in.
And they were blessed with their children, and their seed shall inherit the land.
Hey, so it's about that inheritance. This is why you marry within your nation. So your inheritance doesn't go to another person. Here, now, there in your land, right? Get this in Nehemiah 13 and 25, right? Because this is what happens. For example, Sidney Poitier, right? Sidney Poitier, you know, he just recently died. And he had daughters, and his daughters had Edomite men. So all of the wealth that he's generated, he's from the Bahamas, might I add, but all the wealth that he all the wealth that he generated during his lifetime, right? His daughters married white men, so now they're gonna be giving that to their children. Now, Sidney Poitier's daughters, which is Jake's, married white men. The white men have children with them, and now the children take Sidney Poitier's inheritance. Not only do Sidney Poitier's children look nothing like him, his grandchildren look nothing like him. Look at Joe Jackson, Michael Jackson's father. a big wide-nosed nigga from Gary, Indiana. But look at Michael Jackson's kids. They don't look nothing like their granddaddy. You know what I'm saying? If you had to pick a lineup, who's grandchildren of this? No, because your genes have been destroyed. Phenotypically. Don't you want your children to look like you? You know, the so-called white man, that was his whole justification for segregation. When that baby come out with those little recessive blue and green eyes, it makes the granddad cry. Why? Because he's saying my baby look just like my dad. He's seeing his grandfather, the grandfather seeing his father in the son. But only among Israelites will they try to destroy their genes. Right? They'll try to lighten their skin. Why? Because they hate their fathers. They've been deceived by the father of lies to think that your phenotype, you know, I don't want to produce a child with kinky hair like mine.
Right.
I want my child to have good hair. So they'll look past the fact that this cracker is a sexual deviant, he doesn't work, he is abusive. They just want those high yellow babies so they can brush their hair. And I'm pretty sure in this society, the nigga woman to treat the baby better. You know, an Edomite mother would treat the baby better if the father is a white man. But Nehemiah 13:25. Yeah. You know, to be wavy and exotic, to be mixed. Our people don't want to marry within their nation. Look, you got nappy hair, so-called kinky hair. I got kinky hair. No, she wants to have a baby with, you know, the baby hair in the front that you can lay down.
Put some spit on it.
Hey, you know, the just for me perms and all of that. That was mothers that hated themselves and they were projecting that on their child, putting all type of toxic lye and acid in the baby head, right. Just so she can have a more laid Eurocentric look, so she can shake it around.
And that you know, that same products that they put in the child's hair from the time they were yay high now are taking root and are, you know, preventing them from their reproductive organs all jacked up now.
Hey, they said that they did an autopsy on a woman that was getting perm from a youth, and they said she had like some gray slime on her brain. So you have to understand, your skin is the biggest organ of your body. Right. So when you put different chemicals on your hair, just so you can achieve a different look, just like, you know, Malcolm X, although he was in error, he was like, who taught you to hate yourself? Who taught you that your hair was, you know, the black doll test? When they asked the little child in the black doll experiment, which doll is nice? Which doll is mean? Which doll is pretty? You see how in this society, you get socially programmed. You know, you can watch TV and they already have the L'Oreal and the Maybelline commercials. You know, Victoria's Secret with the Eurocentric standard of what beautiful is. The white bitch with the stringy dog hair, she shake it. In the morning time, you know, Eve, she really gotta put in work. She just can't put it in a beret and get running like the white woman. You know, but this is why, you know, people like Madam C.J. Walker were able to become millionaires in that time, because they were touching on the insecurities of our women with those hair care products. And she had more money in that time, you know, to rival some of those damn oil tycoons, because she came up with that concoction of how to relax her. Your hair needs to be more relaxed. Because when your hair is relaxed, you let the white people relax.
Yeah, they feel more at ease. They feel safe.
You know, and you know, Chris Rock, he actually had a documentary called Good Hair, where he went into this world of cosmetics, hair, nails, and how the face of it is black women that really find fault in how they look and feel like they have to enhance their appearance. Now you have the snuffleupagus eyelashes.
On the plantation, you know, I went to a Korean establishment, a warehouse, and you know, they sell all kind of beauty products.
Yeah.
And in one area is like a staging area, you know, and it has labels, you know, and I look and, you know, Eve went from dark all the way to light, and all their products are lined up just for Eve.
Wow.
You know?
And when you're dealing with the Koreans, they really run the haircare industry. And you will think because they manufacture these products that they will open up the distribution pipeline to the black women over here, since that's 98% of their market, their clientele. But do you think they'll open up their market to a black woman so she could come over here and sell these products to her people? No. They come over here like all of the other nations that are compared against us. They cut out their own little niches. I wouldn't give a fuck if it's Chinese food, if it's dry cleaners. I wouldn't care if it's Dunkin' Donuts, gas stations, hair weave. The stranger has gotten high above us, as the scriptures say, right? And they get high above us, you see, in our so-called communities where we don't control any of the economics. They don't invest amongst us. They come and they sell to us, but they don't buy from us. And then if we say, hey, can we buy from you to sell to our people? They'll blackball, you know. So just like the Chinese, they can't go to the Koreans and buy their stuff. They only sell to Koreans, which is racist, right? But this is what happens. You know, the Bible is a racist document. You know, the Most High, get this in Zephaniah 2. The Most High tells us in his word that we should be separate from these nations. Just like we were going to in the book of Nehemiah. We could get this in Zephaniah 2, then we could jump back to Nehemiah. Because it's all about being separate. Leviticus 20 and 26 says, the Most High severed us from the nations by giving us his law, statutes, and commandments. But our people envy their oppressors. Proverbs 3 and 31. Right? They look at what the heathen has as to be desired. Right.
This is Zephaniah 2 and 1. Gather yourselves together. Yeah, gather together, O nation not desired.
Go ahead.
Before the decree bring forth, before the day pass as the chaff.
But the Most High, he tells us to be segregated. Gather yourselves together, O nation not desired. These nations that are round about, they don't desire to join us as brothers and sisters. They look at us as enemies, something other than human in a lot of situations, right? So we just gonna jump back to Nehemiah 13 and 25. Lord willing, this has been edifying.
Nehemiah 13 and 25.
Go on.
Nehemiah 13 and 25. And I contended with them, and cursed them, and smote certain of them, and plucked off their hair, and made them swear by God, saying, Ye shall not give your daughters unto their sons, nor take their daughters unto your sons, for yourselves.
So Nehemiah got physical with them because they were getting in a hoarder. They were fattening up these other nations. They were squandering away their inheritance by joining into the other nations. Hey, and can we deal with the women from other nations? Get this in Deuteronomy 21. Hey, because we are a warrior class people, right? Exodus 15 and 3 says our God is a man of war. So when we would go to war, a part of the spoils of war is ravishing the women, bringing them into our nation and increasing our numbers by impregnating their women with our children. So the Bible is about to go into the protocol. You know, when we were going into warfare, different campaigns, and we would smite the men of certain nations, we would take their women. We would go through certain purification rituals, and then we would do what? Bring her and absolve her into our nation, right? But certain things had to be done so that that woman couldn't go back into that heathenism of her mother and her father. Right, you can bring up what you got. 21 and 10.
This is Deuteronomy 21 and 10.
Hey, because Jacob always say, well, in the scriptures, you know, different men, his wife was a Moabite, and his wife was this nation, and his wife was that. Well, that could have been an Israelite that was scattered among the land of Moab that was called a Moabite. Like the Samaritan women, these are all Israelite women. that were in that society and living like those nations that were round about. But in a sense, if it was a natural heathen, the Bible actually speaks about how she would enter into our nation and be absolved in. And we're about to get into it right now. Okay?
Deuteronomy 21:10. When thou goest forth to war against thine enemies, and the Lord thy God have delivered them into thine hands, thou hast taken them captive, and seest among the captives a beautiful woman.
A what?
A beautiful woman.
So this is among your enemies.
Right.
This is not your people. This is the heathen. The other 17 nations out of Adam.
Right.
When you go among your enemies and after we dominate them,
Right.
and you see the spoils of war booty, right? Go ahead.
And thou seest amongst the captives a beautiful woman, and has a desire unto her.
Oh, okay. So you like, dang, I always wanted a wavy gook. I always wanted a little flat booty East Indian. I always wanted a Habesha Ethiopian. I want to be a Habesha now. You know, but when you go to war and you see a beautiful woman, it's a protocol in the Bible on if you deal with her and how you deal with her. In his modern time, Jacob go deal with the heathen. Here it is in this society. If Jake get with a woman, her daddy reject her, she get rejected from her inheritance. I mean, you get totally banished. You get reduced, right? But the scriptures will tell you when you deal with these heathens, it's a certain protocol. Go ahead.
And thou seest among the captives a beautiful woman, and has a desire unto her, that thou wouldest have her to wife, to thy wife. Then thou wilt bring her home to thine house.
Hey, bring her to your land, away from her house. Go ahead.
And she shall shave her head.
She's going to shave her head because she's in mourning. You already just killed off her mama. You killed off her daddy. You killed off her brothers. Right? So she's in a time of mourning. She probably had a husband. She probably had children. We're talking about warfare right here. We're talking about blood and guts. Right? And this is what happens in war. You go into a territory. Sometimes it's scorched earth. You know, like we were supposed to do during the time of Saul. We burn everything. The animals, the pigs, the lands, the women, leave nothing alive. But in a sense, where women are the spoils of war. Woman come into your nation, she cooks, she cleans, and she gives children. Right? If you get a beautiful woman and say, bring her into your household. This is at a time when we have borders. We're coming back from war. Like our warriors go to Iraq and then they come back. They're in Iraq killing other people's fathers and children, then they come back and hold their babies and go to the movies with their wife. Why? Because that's what warfare entails. Right? When you go into war and you destroy it and you see this woman and you say, hey, I could do something with this. Just like if they had wealth, resources, gold, animals. That's why you go to war. Right, to strengthen your nation and resources and further your territory. Right, and this is how we were at one point. The nations round about, we gave them hell. We were constantly going into their regions and dominating them. The book of Chronicles, the book of Kings tells a few of the battles that our patriarchs went into where we were successful. You go ahead.
I believe they would be called concubines, right?
Concubines are lesser wife.
Lesser wife.
That's right.
12. And then shalt thou bring her home to thine house, and she shall shave her head and pare her nails, and she shall put the raiment of her captivity from off her, and shall remain in thine house, and bewail her father and her mother a full month.
Why is she going to bewail her father and her mother? Because y'all killed them in battle. Even if, how you doing? Even if she had the desire to go and make, yes sir. Even if she had a desire to go and make a supplication to the idols of her mother and her father, they're not there anymore. She's mourning them. They died in battle. You see what I'm saying? You go ahead.
And she she shall put the raiment off of her captivity from off her, and shall remain in thine house, and bewail her father and thy mother a full month.
Hey.
And after that thou shalt go in unto her.
Hey, so it's saying for a full month she has to be purified. Hey, the white man is the devil that the Bible speaks of. Hey, I put up the white man and the devil sign he left. Hey, but you don't even go into her the first month. Why? Because she still got the stench of her husband on her, right? She still is mourning being snatched away from her nation. She's literally being absolved into our nation. She's becoming an honorary Israelite. Why? Because her mother and her father are not there to influence her, or mainly your children. You have babies with her, and now, well, we're going to get on that in a second about King Solomon.
You see, the reason why you had to put the men, like the brother said, she may have been married. As long as that man is alive, the Lord will prevent you from marrying her. Right. So you had to take the life of her man in order to marry her. Because only when she becomes a widow is she available.
And not only that, these are enemies to our nation, enemies to our God.
Right.
That's why I said when you go into a land and you see your enemies, right, it has that there. So the Most High, we're his physical counterpart. So he's going to execute judgment through us, right? He won't do nothing on this earth. He has spirits designated. And he has a chosen nation that he uses to do what? He said, I dwell within the midst of Israel in Joel 2:27. So whenever we went to war, it was a nation that Most High hate their idols. So we went through, destroyed their idols, and we put them up under the hedge of Yahweh Bashim Yahushua. The same thing is going to happen. Right? It said, and I send out many fishers, and then I send out many hunters. It says, every knee shall bow and every tongue shall confess. Them that I not reign over them, bring them hither. Say them before me. So it's the same thing that's going to happen to our enemies. The women of these nations, they're going to be servants unto us. Handmaidens and concubines. Why? Because, hey, our God is a man of war. We them same warrior class people. And our people have been so far removed from having these conversations of rulership and war because it gets bloody. Going into a territory of nations that hate your God, we got to handle them. No, that's not for women. And this is not conversation for slaves. This is ruling class mentality. Talking about conquering nations, putting them in servitude. No, this is not that Martin Luther King talk. This is what the Bible entails. Lamentation, mourning, and woe for these nations round about, for oppressing the Lord's people. Right? You could continue on Deuteronomy 20. You start with 12.
Done. Deuteronomy 21:12.
Okay.
Then shalt thou bring her home to thine house, and she shall shave her head and pare her nails. And she shall put the raiment of her captivity from off her, and shall remain in thine house, and bewail her father and her mother a full month.
So even when we're dealing with the spoils of war, these women of another nation that hated us, we're not just running into the woman. We just ain't bringing her in. We're dealing with her decently and in order. She had to go through a purification ritual. She got to stay with me for a month. All that hair got to go. The fingernails got to go. She got to go through mourning. Why? Because she'll never see him again. And now you're going to be up under the hedge of me and my God, my nation and my power. That's how we dealt with the nations round about when we went into them. That grandmama and that granddaddy weren't around to oppose your righteous authority over your woman. Here in this society, Jake get with a white woman, her uncles, brothers, nobody want to deal with Jake or her. She pretty much the same thing. She gets rejected without any inheritance, any benefits. Right? You go ahead.
And shall remain in thine house, and bewail her father and her mother a full month. And after thou shalt go in unto her, and be her husband, and she shall be thy wife.
Hey, that's the protocol if you're dealing with the heathens, right? Get this in 1 Kings 11 chapter. Beware of all whoredom. That's what it said, you know, at the beginning of Tobit, the 4th chapter. Our fathers were blessed in their seed. Why? Because their inheritance didn't go to another nation. Nehemiah, hey, he was a prophet that actually got physical with Israelites that wouldn't stop dealing with these nations. Nehemiah was saying, it's getting out of hand. You niggas are a problem. See what I'm saying? Deuteronomy, it showed you if you're dealing with a heathen nation, when we did deal with these other nations, we just didn't buy them a shot at the bar, slide it down by the bartender. The Jake and the Hat sent this to you. Then you go and lay with her that same night. No, you an enemy. Yeah, you sex and everything, but you a Cushite. Only way I can deal with you in warfare is if I conquer you. My children ain't gonna be going making supplications, and they're not gonna be making sacrifices to Buddha. Why? Because your mother and your father keep inviting y'all over every goddamn Chinese New Year. No, mom and daddy, you already mourn for them. And the remembrance of them is, you dealt with that during that month of, you know, being prostrate and mourning. See what I'm saying? So 1 Kings, the 11th chapter, we're about to continue on the theme of why we should just deal with your nation. As far as, you know, looking at the other nations to be desired, wanting to procreate with them, the Bible tells you to beware of all whoredom. Right? It's just going to bring your child into more confusion. You know, because nobody is more confused in this society, America, than that mixed child. At the lunch table, they can't sit with the black folk, the white folk. They just want to be cool with everybody. You know, identity crisis. You can bring it up with that.
This is 1 Kings 11 and 1. But King Solomon loved many strange women, together with the daughter of Pharaoh, women of the Moabites.
Women of the Moabites.
Ammonites.
Ammonites, that's the Japanese.
Edomites.
Goddamn crackers, white folks.
Zidonians.
Some funky-ass Hamites.
And the Hittites.
And the Hittites, more Hamites. King Solomon loved them heathen women. Right? It's chronicled that he had 300 wives and 700 concubines, or it's 1,000 women. I know that. You know? So King Solomon, he loved women just like his father David. King David lusted for Bathsheba when she was married. Right. You know, they, you know, like a lot of Jake in this society. You know what I'm saying? They love women and a lot of them. They had a sex drive that the Most High put in their spirit to be fruitful and multiply. But they wanted to, you know, further their horizon. King Solomon just didn't want to deal with Israelite women, and ultimately, this was why the Most High got displeased with King Solomon in his old age. And we're about to go into that right now. So like,
but King Solomon loved many. 1 Kings 11 and 1. But King Solomon loved many strange women, together with the daughter of Pharaoh, women of the Moabites, Ammonites, Edomites, Zidonians, and Hittites, of the nations concerning which the Lord said unto the children of Israel, ye shall not go in unto them, neither shall they come in unto you, for surely they will turn away your heart after their gods.
Hey, and this is why in Deuteronomy 21 and 10, the mothers and the fathers and the children were cut off. Right. Because the main reason, the understanding is you don't deal with these strange women because they have their own gods. They have their own kings. They have their own way of doing things and ways of being. That's why when we went to war, that was warfare. This is the spoils of war. You know, King Solomon, he just desired to be with these women. Different variations of women. You know, and I'm sure in this society, you know, they push, you know, monogamous relationships. You know, polygamy is illegal in this society for a man to have multiple women because that actually supports our numbers. You know, so, you know, polyandry, a woman having multiple husbands, I'm pretty sure that will probably go on in society because, you know, she can only go through one cycle of, birth. Every, 9 months, once a year, and our body got to heal and repair. But a man, you can lay seed continuously. I always use this analogy. If I lock one man in a house with 100 women, at the end of the year, you have hundreds of babies being born. But if you lock that one woman in a room with 100 men at the end of the year, octuplets at the most, if you want to be extreme. But most likely she's going to have one child. Just to let you know the potency and the potential that the Israelite man has to, for one man to become a great multitude, in 1 or 2 generations. That grandfather could be looking at 30 grandkids that he had from these, sons. And if your sons fear the Lord, then, you leave like an example unto yourself. But just continuing on King Solomon. And King Solomon erring by loving these strange women of these different nations. You go ahead.
Solomon clave unto these in love, and he had 700 wives, princesses, and 300 concubines, and his wives turned away his heart.
Hey, his wife turned away his heart. He didn't get these wives in warfare. He got them because they were beautiful, and, the scripture's about to go ahead and speak. You go ahead.
For it came to pass when Solomon was old that his wives turned away his heart after other gods. And his heart was not perfect with the Lord, his power, as was the heart of David, his father.
See, it said David's heart was perfect unto the Most High. Although he committed adultery, he's a man after God's own heart, because when he could have repaid revenge to Saul, hey, David gained popularity among the Israelite community because he was valiant in battle. And that's the only reason why King Saul actually hated David without a cause, because he was more popular among the people. But during the time of King David, why his heart was perfect, right, is because when King Saul vowed that he nor his men would sleep until David was dead. King David had to drool and play mad to escape death, so on and so forth. But when he was in a cave and he had a chance to cut King Saul down, he just showed him mercy. So mercy is very important to our power. We all need mercy. But in spite of David, committing adultery with a married woman, Bathsheba's husband, it said that he's still a man after God's own heart. See what I'm saying? Just like Moses, he was a murderer. But these men, when he murdered those Egyptians, he did that because he loved his Israelite brothers that much. He didn't have nothing to do with it. But when his people were being afflicted, Moses felt it. Moses had a silver spoon in his mouth. He didn't even have to go down and deal with problems of everyday Israelites when we were in our Egyptian bondage. But Moses, being raised in the Pharaoh his whole life, in the house of Pharaoh his whole life, when he saw his brothers being afflicted, modern day police brutality, right? Because he dealt with police brutality the first day in Exodus 3, and black on black violence the second day. The same dynamics in this society. But a lot of men in this society that actually have wealth and a level of prestige and status, they're not going to lose it all just because their people are being afflicted and subjugated and oppressed. But this is why God used Moses to actually bring us into the wilderness. Moses didn't come into the promised land, but he was a man after God's own heart nonetheless. Just like Solomon, son of King David. His heart wasn't perfect towards the Most High because in old age, he started wanting to satisfy his women. When he would make his sacrifices to Yahweh B'Ashem Yahushua, he would allow his women to make sacrifices to Buddha, Krishna, and Allah. Right? So this is one of the main reasons why we don't deal with the other nations, because your children are going to learn the ways of the heathen that are round about. Right? Hey, let's jump back into Sirach, the 3rd chapter and the 9th verse, and we'll just work our way on down to the 16th verse. How y'all doing, brothers? just letting our people know that, hey, the blessing of the fathers established the household. You know, and most of these households that are led by women, they're giving birth to your drill rappers, your thugs, you know what I'm saying, your scammers, your hustlers, your sexual deviants. All right, you go ahead.
Sirach chapter 3, verse 10.
You start with 9.
9. For the blessing of the father establisheth the houses of the children, but the curse of the mother rooteth out foundations. Glory not in the dishonor of thy father, for thy father's dishonor is no glory unto thee.
Hey, and people in this society, they'll sit and talk all type of trash about their daddy. When he died, all he left me was alone. You know, niggas, and I mean, in this society, you don't understand. You talking bad about your daddy. I remember when I was younger, that's what would happen. I would have cousins that'd come over. And, you know, when we talk about one another, they treat us more poor. Here it is, you dogging your dad out, and now, you know, your family is treating you less than worthy because you dogging out your family. That's not an honor to you. You are who your father is. You know, I've actually, in this society, a so-called stepson, you know, I don't know what the biblical equation of a stepfather is, but even with my stepson, I said, if your mama and your auntie and your grandma dogging your daddy out, just don't your ass being there with them goddamn women. Call yourself putting your 2 cents in on your daddy. Because when you grow up, you're going to find out that, hey, your daddy probably weren't even the one that was wrong in the situation. Right? You'll find out that you probably need to give your daddy mercy. You probably going to fuck up more than your dad do. But don't piss on your feet by dogging out your daddy and thinking that's making you look good. You look bad with him. Right? Bring this out from the top one more time. How you doing, brother?
Sirach 3 and 9. For the blessing of the father establisheth the houses of the children, but the curse of the mother rooteth out foundation.
Go ahead.
Glory not in the dishonor of thy father.
Here it is, your mama, your auntie dogging out your dad, and you don't have a problem with that. No, that's the same smoke that they have for you because you are who your father is. All right, go ahead.
For thy father's dishonor is no glory unto thee. For the glory of a man is from the honor of his father.
Woo, it said the glory of a man is for the honor of his father. You hide your father's shame. If your father is a prisoner of war and he hasn't been able to be in your life the way that you would want him to be, understanding that we're under the curses of the Israelites and your father needs mercy. You know, the Most High put you in a position to do what? Forgive your father. Father, I understand. I know you haven't been here for me. Your father's at war, just like you at war. Don't take any glory in the dishonor of your father today. What's going on? They coming to mama with flowers. I was the mama and the daddy. Yeah. You know, she probably told your daddy, we don't need you, before she left and put him on papers. Rooted out the foundation. You go ahead. Yeah.
For the glory of a man is formed from the honor of his father, and a mother in dishonor is a reproach to the children.
Is a reproach to the children. In this society, you know, just like Tupac said, even as a crack fiend. She, you know, you can just imagine when she was on that substance, being a prisoner of war, that, you know, had to suppress all of the trauma with checking out temporarily. You can just imagine how Tupac might have felt as a small child. Seeing your mama run the streets, get in the strange cars, get out of strange cars. You at school and your classmates could tell you how your mama feel. Oh, bring this last precept out.
Sirach 3 and 11. For the glory of a man is from the honor of his father, and a mother is dishonor. In dishonor is a reproach to the children. My son, help thy father in his age, and grieve him not as long as he liveth.
Hey, because it's a saying, once a man, twice a child. You're born with a diaper, you grow to become a man, and Lord willing, you're going to get in the age where you might need that diaper again. Right? Once a man, twice a child. So the same way when your father gets old, you know, just like Isaac and Jacob and Esau, You know, you have to take care of your father. The circle of life, as they call it. Go ahead.
My son, help thy father in his age, and grieve him not as long as he liveth.
Go ahead.
And if his understanding fail, have patience with him, and despise him not when thou art in thy full strength.
Now your father weak and you strong. And now you're going to mistreat him because he mistreated you when you were young. Now, you were supposed to still do what's required as an Israelite by honoring your father. Right? Just because he might catch dementia and start losing his mind, the Bible says be patient with him. Who's going to be there to tell their children to change his diaper? Who's going to be there to cut the grass, take him to the doctor appointments, handle his affairs? Right? Be patient, which means to suffer. The same way when we were young, you know, a lot of us grieved our parents. You know, these wicked niggas' parents got to put up the house for bond. Here it is, she at work, and her work mates, they know that your child out robbing and being a nigger. Your child out in the street misrepresenting you and your husband in the nation. Right? You go ahead.
And to the brother's point, you know, when you were little, they changed your diapers, they provided for you. You know, your father went out and worked and did what he had to do to raise you up. You know, that same level of you know, care that you expected from your father, now that you're in your full strength and he's not, you're supposed to lend that same measure to him.
Right, because hey, you're gonna be in the same predicament if it be the Lord's will that you get to that point.
Yeah. And the scriptures say, if you honor your mother and your father, you'll have long days. Okay? So while you in your full strength, if you are to have long days till you get old and decrepit, and you know your son got to change your pampers and so forth and so on.
That's right.
That means you got to honor your father and your mother.
Look, go get your prescription.
That's right.
You go ahead.
God. Sirach 3:13.
Uh-huh.
And if his understanding fail, have patience with him, and despise him not when thou art in thy full strength. For the relieving of thy father shall not be forgotten.
Hey, the Most High is recording everything. You just do what's right. And the Most High said, give us this day our daily bread. That's what the Most High continue to do. Make your way straight. Direct your path. You go ahead.
For the relieving of thy father shall not be forgotten, and instead of sins, it shall be added to build thee up.
Hey, rather than sin, it's going to cover a multitude of sins. Right? It's blotting out. Charity. Right? It begins at home with your father. Go ahead.
In the day of thine affliction, it shall be remembered. Thy sins also shall melt away as the ice in the fair warm weather.
Because you did what the hell you were supposed to do, which is honor your father, right, from conception to the point that you cognizant that it is your father, up until your father, you become the father. Right. Once a man, twice a child. Once your father gets old and you become full in strength, you supposed to deal with him delicately. Deal with your mother delicately. You just don't write him off and refer to him as that nigga. Right. You didn't do nothing for me. You weren't there for us, daddy. Right. You abandoned my mom and us. We boys, you know. You go ahead.
15. Hey, this is heavy. In the day of thine affliction, it shall be remembered. Thy sins also shall melt away as the ice in the fair warm weather. Woo!
Hey, charity covers a multitude of sins. Charity begins at home. Go ahead.
He that forsaketh his father is as a blasphemer. Woo! And he that angereth his mother is cursed unto God.
Hey, just like he that don't want to take care of your family, you just want to up. Yeah, scat pack. You just want to up and abandon your family and move elsewhere. The Bible says you're less than an infidel. That's a part of the faith, taking care of your family. You're denying the faith if you don't take care of what's important. Charity begins at home. But it's saying right here, you're being equated to a blasphemer. which means it's like you cursing the scriptures, right? Bring this out from the top.
Okay. Sirach 3:16. He that forsaketh his father is as a blasphemer, and he that angereth his mother is cursed of God.
Cursed of God. So, honoring your mother and your father, you know, that's the understanding on how you honor them. Going into a deeper understanding. Because honoring your mother and your father, that's like a blanket precept.
Right.
But taking care of your parents, being patient with your parents, you know, not glorying in the dishonor of your parents. That's how you honor them as well. You know, you can't look at yourself separate from your father, right? Who's a prisoner of war, a captive slave. So we got to be able to look at our fathers and be patient and merciful with them. And understand that a major aspect of our customs and our folkways and the principles that we live by is taking care of our parents. We don't let them get old and put them on a cruise around the world till they die. You don't just put them in a nursing home like Kill Bill where they could just, you know, not turn them over, bed sores. That's what the Edomites do. Here it is, their whole life they gave y'all the best schools, the best education, the best neighborhoods. And when those white people grow up, they put their parents in Shady Acres retirement home. The children don't go about them, they don't go check on them. And I mean, they languish. They wither away in the hands of the state or somebody that they can pay to come and change their diaper. You know, ain't nobody gonna wipe that ass like your daughter or your son will. You know, them folks that they are hired to, you know, hospice workers and take care of them, you should see how poor the treatment is. You know what I mean? They raping some of the old ladies up in there, going into their bank account, stealing money from them, you know, rewriting the deed for the house in the name of, you know, someone that works in the nursing home when they die. You're just being made a prey. You wouldn't even think that they had children that they didn't even spank, didn't even discipline them, gave them the best. Right? But the Israelites, you know what I'm saying, from what I see, you know, the love of the mother, that's something that's common in this society, where the men have been reduced, you know, and get this in Jeremiah 31:22. And hey, that's all by design. The Most High told us in his word that, hey, if we didn't hearken to his word, that, hey, we wouldn't be able to be given the respect of respectable men, men of honor, men of understanding. No, now they look at us like, man, what are y'all niggas good for? Other than making babies and leaving them. You know what I'm saying? So in this society, just like if Yahweh Shah was here, they would look at Yahweh Shah the same way. Because Yahweh Shah, hey, he's a heavily melanated man of Israel. So if he was walking among the earth, he wouldn't be getting respect as well. Right? You could, what was it, Jeremiah 31:22? You could bring it out when you got it.
Jeremiah 31:22.
Go on.
How long wilt thou go about, O backsliding daughter? For the Lord hath created a new thing in the earth.
Hey, the Lord created a new thing in the earth. Go ahead.
A woman shall compass a man.
Thus, a woman shall compass a man. Right? When you look at the amount of college graduates, the amount of first-time homeowners, the heads of household, the amount of Israelites that are actually in business and starting their own small businesses and in commerce. It's the women. You know, our men have been hid away in prison houses for the most part. The men have been taken out of the household through, get Micah 7:10. The men have been taken out of the household through social programs like welfare, where a woman can't get certain benefits if the man is there. You know, the LGBT movement, a lot of men have totally forsaken the fight. A lot of take like, if I can't beat him, I'm gonna join him. So they join LGBTQ+. You see what I'm saying? And they say, I don't wanna make my role of raising a strong household. I don't wanna learn and have to teach the woman. No, I just wanna be in this society and, lead this deviant lifestyle. I don't even want to have children. Right? This is the sentiments of a lot of these men. Right?
I was talking to a Jake this past week, at the plantation, and he starts off saying, my son, he gets teased at school, he's a little soft, and he goes on to say, yeah, he hangs around his mom a lot, and everything, every time, I try to, toughen him up and give him some, manly, mannerisms, he goes and says, I'm gonna tell mama.
Yeah.
Everything about, what I tell him, he said, I'm gonna go tell mama. And I said, well, you need to look, why he says that,
Right. Right. Because when you're dealing with certain things like warfare, teaching your child the Bible, just like when we come out, we don't bring our little babies because they're not at a level of understanding where they can understand certain principles. Like, for example, when a boy goes through puberty, that's when he becomes a man, because now he can give birth. You're a man because you can make a child. That's when you need to learn certain things about governing society, women, warfare. But unfortunately, in this society, you have to have these conversations prematurely.
Right.
Like I was telling Jake when he came up, the Proud Family, they just reboot a whole nother series. And at the beginning of the series, they are automatically injecting a lot of LGBTQ themes. So, since I wasn't able to watch this before my child was exposed to it, I have to double back and I have to tell him what the correct way is. My son's 6 years old, but I might have to start bringing his ass to the highways and byways now, because Esau Edom is giving them these evil lessons behind the scenes, unbeknownst to the parents.